5 years ago, a British Christian movie-making company released a documentary, historical documentary called The Forsaken Promise. Did anybody here see that? I know it was also released in the United States. They premiered the movie here. The promise that was forsaken was the promise that's known as the Balfour Declaration. The Balfour Declaration was published, was issued by the British government in 1917 as World War I was coming to an end. And the British were used in an amazing way by God to liberate this land of hundreds of years of Turkish and other Islamic rule. And a stream in Christianity in Great Britain called Restorationism believed that the Jews should come back to this land. That was God's purpose for them. That Restorationism movement had an influence on British parliamentarians, and the end result of that was that the Balfour Declaration would be issued. I'm cutting it very, very short here, with following up on your own. Would be issued, guaranteeing the Jews, or rather promising British best efforts to help the Jews get and regain their national homeland here in Palestine. Palestine then, when that was issued, included all the land of Israel. That is to say, modern Israel today, together with Jordan, together with the Golan Heights, together with the Gaza Strip, and of course together with Judea and Samaria, which is called the West Bank. That was all Palestine. It was not a country. It was part of the Ottoman Empire, and that was what the Balfour Declaration referred to. So the British promised that the land they had liberated from the Turks, they would help oversee the establishment in this land of a national home for the Jewish people. In 1923 at San Remo in Italy, the League of Nations ratified the Balfour Declaration into international law, whereby the world, the international community, agreed that this land should be handed over, or helped the Jewish movement that wanted to come back to this land should be helped to restore and recreate their national homeland here. Britain was given a mandate to oversee the establishment of the state. Britain was not given this land as a colony. This was not part of the British Empire. They had a responsibility, and they were accountable to the world, to the League of Nations, to oversee the birth of this Jewish national home. They betrayed the mandate. They succumbed to growing Arab rejectionism of Jewish immigration. And I'm going to speak on two levels here. On one, the level I'm speaking on right now is the geopolitical horizontal level, but I want to speak also for a second on a spiritual level, on the prophetic level. God promised that after the Jews had been driven out of this land and had been scattered and had wandered the world for a long, long time, because of their unfaithfulness to Him, that one day He would bring them back to this land. And He was committed to that promise. That's a promise that He made through the ancient prophets. And very much through Great Britain, the door was open for this prophecy to be fulfilled. But Britain gave in to increasingly violent Arab pressure to resist Jewish immigration, and this at the time when Adolf Hitler was coming to power in Europe. Adolf Hitler rose to power. Before he becomes Chancellor, he already spells out his intentions to finally solve the Jewish question. The final solution, after centuries of other solutions weren't final, weren't successful. Hitler believed that he would come out, that he would succeed in ridding this planet of the Jewish people. That was his goal, first and foremost, also as documented in the way he prosecuted the war and where his priorities lay. So as he comes to power, the Jews in Europe look for a place to escape to. Increasingly, they look to Palestine, where Britain has promised them a homeland and has been committed to oversee their absorption into this homeland, if you like. And then in 1939, the most critical year for European Jewry, Great Britain issues a white paper. It's a policy document whereby Great Britain says we will basically slam shut the doors of Palestine to Jewish immigration. We will not allow the Jews to come there anymore. The Arabs are too uppity, they're causing too much trouble. It's unsettling the Middle East for the sake of our greater British Empire interests, if you like. We're going to allow just a few tens of thousands of Jews into Palestine, and that's it, we're closing the doors, no more. Jews are trying to get here. First of all, they manage, they succeed. We've had 5 waves of immigration leading up to World War II. And lots of Jews have come. But in those most critical years, doors are closed, and the Royal Navy will patrol the shores here. 141 ships carrying Jews will come to Palestine, trying to break through the British blockade. Some of them will succeed. They will beach all along the shore here. Sometimes at night they will ride up onto the shore. The Jews will jump off and scurry up into the hills, where they'll be taken into places like Zifron Yaakov and other Jewish communities and hidden from the British, who are patrolling and trying to keep them out, trying to keep the Arab side quiet. In that same year, 1939, the British will build Atlit. And Jews who have heard about concentration camps and worse in Europe, coming to the ancient homeland, will find themselves incarcerated in a concentration camp. And instead of German soldiers, they will have British soldiers keeping them here. Some of them will be sent to Cyprus. Some of them will be sent back to Europe, where they will die. When that movie was released, The Forsaken Promise, the first gentleman to be interviewed was a 75-year-old Israeli, and he didn't mince his words. He said, as a Holocaust survivor who lost my whole family in Auschwitz, I regard Great Britain as just as much to blame as Nazi Germany for the Holocaust. Because they wouldn't let us out, they wouldn't let us in, they forced us back out when we tried to get in, and they sent us back to Hitler to die. That's the way they see it. We think of Great Britain and Winston Churchill and the soldiers fighting in the trenches. And of course there was the good, and Churchill was obviously a man for the hour. But this place, this is a shame, this is a blot on Jewish-Gentile relations and on Christian-Jewish relations as well. We're going to... So we're going to see a movie in a few minutes, which will give you much more detail about the camp itself than I can. If you like, that was just the background. Okay, any questions? Comments? Yes, sir.
Not a question, but a statement. America has to pay DFT also. Yep. Because they sent a ship away. It was not let the Jews come in there. We're guilty too.
The St. Louis, the ship of Jewish refugees seeking asylum, seeking a home, seeking refuge, was turned away from country after country, including yes, the United States. I mean, in one sense, we can, all of us who are Gentiles. And there is a growing awareness. It's not very big, but there is a growing awareness of, if nothing else, guilt by association. But Christians have been trying, and the producers of this film, The Forsaken Promise, are leading the charge, if you like, from Britain. As British Christians who really feel sensitive about what their country did. There are others. You're here. I mean, that's part of the same movement. A growing awareness and understanding, a standing in solidarity with the Scripture, with the promises of God for this nation. Amen. And by coming here and loving on this nation as Christians, and that's what they know. They know I am a Christian. They know you're Christians. We're showing them something different. But for many, many Jews, Christians have always been their enemies. We have a lot of work to do. We're going to go for another... Oh, yeah, sorry.
The other thing that the U.S. did, there was a certain number of allowed immigration, number of people that they would, and they were not even allowing that number in to the U.S. They cut it off, and so there was a whole bunch of Jewish people that were trying to get into the U.S. and they should have been allowed in because of the immigration numbers, but the State Department just cut off the number of...
Yeah, the American way of dealing with the Holocaust is pretty well documented in a book called While 6 Million Died. It's out there. It's on the book list that I said I'd send around for those of you who want it. While 6 million died, what was America doing? That was that book written by an American on the subject. Yeah. Churchill's role in the whole Zionism thing is a little bit ambiguous. There's a good book out by Martin Gilbert, an eminent British historian, on Churchill and the Jews. He looks at some of these aspects. What is true is that the moment, the very day after the United Nations votes to partition Palestine in 1947, which is the end of the British Mandate, they begin in New York to discuss reversing the resolution. In other words, to retract it. They promised, the vote was taken on partitioning, the Jews rejoiced because they were going to get a state, and the next day, led by the Secretary of State of the United States, who was against the whole deal, America began to look at ways, and the United Nations began to look at ways to retract on the whole partition plan. There's a lot of stuff there. Okay. Follow that, youngling.